Yeah.
I wanted to quickly actually just reference the past that Richard's saying, though, because again, people who don't know CSGO aren't going to know this. There's two details here. One of the all-time redemption arc, personally and professionally, in the history of CSGO that I'm aware of, I've never seen this happen, is the player cadiaN. Because if people don't know, way back in the day when he was just a little shit like everyone who's 16 or whatever is taught and chatting shit to players, and then people who are better than you don't respect them. And so what happened was, way back in the day, within the Danish scene, there was a Facebook group effectively called Fuck cadiaN. It was like the no homers fucking club on the treehouse. It was like no cadiaNs allowed, and everyone was in it, and it was sort of like, yeah, fuck this guy. This is ages ago, right? So as a result, for example, if people don't know, when he was one of the desk analysts who replaced me at Katowice 2014, he wasn't playing in a Danish team. He was playing in a mad mouse sports team with players that were rejects from every single region. And then he literally played many different teams that weren't Danish teams. He played in the fucking Rogue lineup with like Swiss and Bulgarian, and then he go to the NA one that had a bunch of players like that. So this guy had to be the ultimate journeyman. And I have to say, if you watched his game back then, his problem is he wasn't a superstar player. He was like a streaky AWPer who could have a good map and hit everything. He had a flicky style, or he could have a bad map and miss everything. And basically, everyone thought, look, I don't like you, and you're also not, it's not like you're simple, so I don't have to bring you into my team. Then he got to this heroic squad, who with the old lineup, it was a much weaker lineup, like Nico and fucking Borup aren't Tessus and Refresh. They had a much weaker lineup, but because of the online era, that was the vibe, they got to #1 ranking in the world, literally, I think it was last summer or something. So when this happened as well, it wasn't even just that it was like, the other players carrying. People like Stown, who'd been considered, this is going to be the next great player, you've got to watch him. No, cadiaN was actually the one IGLing, AWPing, and his numbers were inconceivable for someone who's played that long. I've never seen a player, Davey, ever go from like, I'm going to guess he was like a 1.0 rating or something his whole career, to suddenly, he was doing months, like 3 months in a row, he'd have a 1.26 rating, which is like that's like bordering on ZWoo shit if people don't know. He went so high up that people, listen, even I was thinking, even online play, this can't be it. Like, people were thinking he has to cheat. It has to be cheating somehow. So there's cadiaN, right? Then there's the angle of heroic, which is, as Richard says, this main Erik guy, I don't know anyone else within the heroic org. He's another person where all of his dealings that I've found out about, and even actually being able to speak to him about some of them, they don't add up unless, and this is the sad thing, this guy, I'll give credit to fucking Nicola Lyholm. He at least actually fucking tricks the other people and gets his way. He might not win with me and Richard. We can put a little bit of mud on his face, but he still in the end does get the money. He does tend to get what he wants, and he does trick a bunch of fucking morons, shout out Flashpoint owners. But here's the issue. The Erik guy is like a moron who tries to be like Nicola Nyholm, but isn't even as good. Because as far as I can tell, he's fucking owned himself about 5 times in a row, and he still thinks it's a master plan, like some Bond villain that's going to like spin to his favour at the end. Because I'll give you a couple of quick things that happened last year, right? And remember, this is a guy who supposedly and told me, I didn't ask him to do the call, by the way. I'm not speaking out of school here. He told me, I don't like Astralis, and in fact, I'm going to sue them. And because he was trying to explain away things that are inconceivable if that is true. One, if you remember the story, Flashpoint actually got Heroic the team when they were number 14 in the world for season 1. Except they didn't, because when they arrived in fucking LA, it turned out that like one of them didn't want to sign the contract. What does that mean? It turned out basically Heroic just sort of told them, you've been sold to FPX, the Chinese. And apparently the terms of their new deal were weird, and you were supposed to sign a contract. You haven't negotiated the salary. Like it was all over the place. There was all sorts of fuckery involved in this. And so one of the players, Tag, instead chose to go and join Astralis. He said, I'm going to sit out the rest of my contract and I'm going to join Astralis. In fact, I've already signed with them as soon as my contract ends. And so they had this whole saga. So already you've sort of fucked up your own team selling it, and then it didn't get sold. It came back and it wasn't FPX anymore. And then they actually became the #1 team. And then you've sold a player to your main rival, who actually, by the way, they desperately needed. And they used to even win Pro League a few months later. Again, I like I'm like Carlos from G2. I just wouldn't sell good players to my rivals. I wouldn't give you pieces to beat me with. And then on top of that, there was an incident where when Astralis had the two players have to get, basically, Glaive got a medical note saying, like, I'm burned out from a doctor, and they had to give him time off. So when Zipnix found this out, I heard he just sort of said, well, fuck that. I've wanted time off the whole time. I'm just going away anyway. If he's going out, I'm going out. So they both came out of the team, and they were desperate for players because Esitar can't play yet. He's still under the heroic contract, and there are no players available unless you want to buy players, and the market's very inflated. So they managed to find right before, something like the night before the Blast Showdown, which they desperately needed to get through, they signed a week earlier or 2 weeks earlier, they signed Yugi, one of the most washed players of all time. Nobody was thinking about this guy. He was nowhere near relevant. They signed him to join the team. And then something like the night before the Blast Showdown, Heroic had sold Snappy, the in-game leader of the original team, to this, like, I think it was like, what team was it from? It's some player in Southeast Asia, Mongolia, I think, somewhere mad like that. It was a team called Tiger, I think it was.
Yeah, Tiger.
And basically, even though they'd sold it, I heard they hadn't actually signed the contract yet. They hadn't penned it, you know. And what happened was, this Heroic guy basically got asked, I think by Snappy, like, look, I know I'm supposed to go to this, like, fucking Tiger team, but Astralis is asking me to stand in. Like, you've got to let me do this. Like, please, like, can I just go and stand in for this team? And this fucking CEO guy claimed to me, like, oh, I just decided, like, you know, he asked me personally, I've got to sort of let him go, haven't I? And I was like, just so I can be clear, because I was like a phone call. I was like, just so I'm clear, this is the team you want to fuck in the ass, and you're going to sue to the ground, right? But you're helping them last minute when they're basically in the water. You're throwing life preservers to them, and you hate them, though. Like, you hate them, and basically he was trying to spin it like, yeah, but this is like part of the master plan. Like, you help them a couple of times, and like you fuck them in the long. And I'll just listen. All I'm going to say is he's another person where it's like, mate, I wouldn't trust you as far as I could piss into your open mouth. Like, this is not someone I trust on any level. You can keep that in if you want. It's fucking fire. Anyway, I'm just saying, this guy cannot be believed in any case. So even though Monty's stressed, as they always do in Heroic, it's new management, it's new times, new teeth, it's new technology. It's me, DJ Khaled, on fucking Instagram every day. Straight fire reference, if you know. But basically, here's the thing. Even though they claim that, they made the classic mistake of bringing the one big dickhead who everyone knew was doing shit in Heroic over, and even if it was maybe just like a fucking role for the PR to be like, we've still got someone from the original team, the fact that he's involved at all in anything later makes me have my questions about their Heroic, or even I don't know the new management. Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.